The giant crystal hall of the Galactic Council buzzed with strange alien sounds. Dozens of different space creatures sat in their special chairs, all talking at once about whether humans should be allowed to join their group. Their voices mixed. Together, some clicking, some humming, some making sounds no human throat could ever make. Ambassador Jiwoo Park sat very still in her small chair, meant for Earth's representatives. She was the only human in the massive room, surrounded by beings that looked like they came from nightmares or dreams. Her dark eyes stayed focused straight ahead. Even as wave after wave of cruel laughter filled the air around her, the Viridian representative was the loudest of all. This creature looked like someone had mixed a person with a machine, with metal parts sticking out of its green skin. Its mechanical implants flashed bright colors as it laughed. "Chemical propulsion," screamed, its voice like nails on metal. "These humans still burn fuel just to leave their planet. How primitive." Other aliens joined in the mockery. The Zephyrian delegate stood 3 times taller than any human, made entirely of living crystal that sang when it moved. Its whole body rang like a bell as it spoke. "Species that cannot even travel through their own star system wants to join us. Ridiculous." The laughter got louder and meaner. Giant screens appeared in the air, showing pictures of Earth's military. The aliens pointed at human spaceships, rockets, and weapons. Everything looked old and simple compared to the alien technology. Where humans used fire and metal, the aliens had energy shields that glowed like rainbows and ships that bent space itself to travel faster than light. One alien that looked like a floating jellyfish with too many eyes spoke up. "Look at their weapons. They still throw rocks at each other, metal rocks, and their ships." Added another creature that seemed to be made of living shadow. "They need fuel, actual fuel, like ancient ground vehicles." Jiwoo sat through it all, without moving. Her hands stayed folded in her lap, her face calm and peaceful. She had been trained for this moment, prepared for exactly this kind of reception. Earth's leaders knew their technology would seem backward to these advanced civilizations. The council speaker, a being that looked like a tree made of gold, finally raised one branch-like arm for silence. The cruel laughter slowly died down as all eyes turned to the small human woman. "The representative from Earth may speak," the speaker announced. Its voice like wind through leaves. Gu stood up slowly, taking her time. She was not tall compared to most of the aliens, but she held herself with quiet dignity. When she spoke, her voice was soft but clear enough for everyone to hear. "Honored delegates," she began, using the proper formal address, Earth's requests, "that you reconsider our application for membership. We believe we can contribute meaningfully to galactic civilization." The response was immediate and harsh. The chamber exploded with fresh waves of mocking laughter. Some aliens made rude gestures with whatever they used for hands. Others made insulting sounds in their native languages. The Viridian delegate's voice cut through all the noise like a knife. "Contribute. What could a species of ground crawlers possibly offer to us? Your entire world could not defeat a single council patrol ship. You have nothing we want or need." A slug-like creature from the back rows called out. "Maybe they could clean our ships. Their primitive hands might be useful for simple tasks." More laughter filled the hall. Even the normally dignified older delegates were chuckling behind their various appendages. The youngest aliens were openly pointing at Jiwoo and making jokes to each other, but Jiwoo did not get angry. She did not raise her voice or make threats. She simply nodded respectfully to the assembled beings, as if they had paid her a compliment instead of insulting her entire species. "Thank you for your time and consideration," she said simply, her voice still calm and polite. Then she sat down. The aliens looked at each other in confusion, had expected anger, pleading, or at least some kind of emotional response. Instead, the human had simply accepted their rejection with grace. Many of them interpreted this as weakness. Some thought she was too stupid to understand the insults. Others believed humans were naturally cowardly. The Viridian delegate leaned back in its chair, satisfied. "See, they cannot even defend themselves. With words, how could they possibly defend themselves in battle?" The Golden Tree speaker made the official announcement. Earth's application for membership in the Galactic Council is denied. This session is closed. As the aliens began to file out of the chamber, many of them were still chuckling about the encounter. They had dismissed humanity as completely harmless, a species so backward and weak that they posed no threat to anyone. Guu gathered her simple paper documents and walked calmly toward the exit. She showed no signs of disappointment or embarrassment. As she passed groups of aliens, some continued to make jokes about humans and their primitive ways. They had no idea how badly they had just misjudged the species they had rejected. They would learn the truth soon enough. 6 months had passed since the Galactic Council laughed at Earth's request to join them. During those months, something terrible began happening in the galaxy. The Viridian Empire, the same aliens who had mocked humans the loudest, decided they wanted more than just their seat on the council. They wanted to rule everything. Admiral Hyunsu Kim sat in his underground command center on Earth, watching reports come in from human spy stations hidden throughout space. The news got worse every day. The Viridians were attacking planet after planet on the outer edges of the galaxy. They were winning every single battle. The reports made Hyunsu's stomach churn. The Viridians did not just defeat their enemies. They destroyed them completely. When they conquered a world, they killed every living thing on it. Men, women, children, animals, even plants. Nothing survived. They turned green worlds into dead rocks floating in space. Admiral called Captain Minho Lee from across the room. Minho was young but smart, and he ran Earth's intelligence operations. I have the latest update from our scouts. Hyunsu looked up from his screens. What's the situation, Captain? The Viridians just finished destroying the Kolari system. 3 billion people, all dead. That makes 12 worlds they've wiped out in the past month. Minho's voice was tight with anger. And sir, they're heading our way. The Admiral felt a cold chill run down his spine. How long do we have? Our computers say they'll reach the edge of our solar system in 3 weeks. Maybe less if they push their ships harder. Hyunsu stood up and walked to the main display. Screen, it showed a map of the galaxy with red marks showing where the Viridians had attacked. The red marks were moving steadily toward a small blue dot labeled Earth. The Viridian strategy was simple and brutal. They would arrive at a star system with hundreds of their biomechanical ships. These vessels looked like a mix of machine and living creature, covered in metal plates but pulsing like they had hearts. The ships were huge, some as big as cities, and armed with weapons that could crack planets in half. When they reached a world, they did not ask for surrender. They did not negotiate. They simply opened fire and kept shooting until nothing moved. Then they would broadcast a message to the rest of the galaxy, warning other species what happened to those who opposed the Viridian Empire. What about the Galactic Council? Hyunsu asked. Are they doing anything to stop this? Minho shook his head sadly. The same as always, sir. They talk and talk and talk. They hold meetings about having meetings. While they debate, more worlds die. The Galactic Council had proven completely useless against the Viridian expansion. The same aliens who had seemed so powerful and advanced when mocking humans could not agree on how to fight back. Some wanted to negotiate. Others wanted to impose economic sanctions. A few suggested sending a strongly worded letter. Meanwhile, the Viridians kept killing. Sir Minho said quietly, "There's something else. The Viridians are broadcasting messages about us." What kind of messages? Minho activated a recording. The voice that came from the speakers was the same metallic screech they had heard at the council meeting months ago. Citizens of the galaxy. The Viridian message began. We come now to the pathetic little world called Earth. These humans dared to think they belonged among their betters. They dreamed above their station. We will show the galaxy what happens to species who forget their place. Earth will burn as an example to all who would challenge Viridian authority. The message continued, describing in horrible detail what the Viridians planned to do to Earth and its people. They wanted to make humanity's destruction a public spectacle, something other species would remember forever. Hyunsu listened to the entire message without changing expression. When it ended, he was quiet for a long moment, or not even. Trying to hide their approach, he finally said. Minho nodded. Our deep space sensors can track their entire fleet. They're coming straight at us. No attempt at stealth or deception. They think we're so weak that they don't need to be careful. The young captain pulled up another display showing the Viridian fleet composition. Hundreds of massive ships, all bristling with weapons. The smallest vessels were larger than Earth's. Biggest battleships. Admiral Minho said, his voice uncertain. Should we begin evacuating our colonies? Maybe we could save some people if we started moving them now. Huiyansu studied the display for a long time. The Viridian fleet looked unstoppable. Their technology was centuries ahead of anything humans had built. Their ships outnumbered Earth's forces by more than 10-1. Any reasonable military commander would order an immediate retreat, but Huiyansu smiled instead. It was not a happy smile, but the grim expression of a man who knew something his enemies did not. No evacuation. Captain, he said firmly, we're going to give the Viridians exactly what they expect to find when they arrive. Minho looked confused. Sir? A quiet little world, unprepared and defenseless, Huiyansu continued. Let them think they've caught us sleeping. Let them believe their own propaganda about human weakness. He turned back to watch the red markers. On the display, creep closer to Earth. Let them come. The first Viridian scout ships entered the Sol system like hungry wolves approaching a sleeping farm. Their dark hulls moved silently through space, sensors sweeping back and forth as they searched for any signs of human military preparation. What they found made them even more confident than before. Earth looked completely normal. Cargo ships moved slowly between Mars and Earth, carrying goods just like any other day. Mining ships worked in the asteroid belt, pulling rocks apart to get metals and minerals. Research stations floated peacefully near Jupiter and Saturn, their lights blinking in regular patterns. Everything seemed quiet, ordinary, helpless. Commander So-Young Choi watched the enemy scouts from her secret command center deep under the moon's surface. The room was dark, except for the glow of dozens of computer screens. Each screen showed different parts of the solar system, tracking every Viridian ship that entered human space. So-Young was a small woman with sharp eyes and steady hands. She had been preparing for this moment for months, ever since Admiral Kim gave her the most important job in human history. Around her, 30 technicians sat at their stations, watching the alien ships and recording everything they did. Commander called Lieutenant Duhayan Park from his station near the back wall. The scouts are moving in their standard formation. 3 ships in a triangle pattern, staying about 50,000 kilometers apart. So-Young nodded without taking her eyes off the main display screen. Any sign they've detected our hidden platforms? No, ma'am. They're scanning with basic sensors only. They're not even looking very hard. This was exactly what So-Young had hoped for. The Viridians were so sure of human weakness that they were barely paying attention. Their arrogance was making them sloppy, and sloppy enemies made mistakes. For the past 6 months, while the Viridians had been destroying other worlds, Earth's military had been very busy. But they had been careful to hide their work. To anyone watching from outside, it looked like humans were doing the same things they always did. The mining ships in the asteroid belt were really mining, but they were also building something else. Hidden inside some of the larger asteroids, human engineers had constructed massive weapons platforms. From the outside, they looked like natural space rocks. But inside, they held railguns powerful enough to punch holes through battleships. The communication satellites orbiting Earth and Mars did send messages, but they also carried missile pods that could deploy at a moment's notice. The research stations near the outer planets were conducting real science. But they were also watching for enemy ships and ready to coordinate attacks. Even the cargo ships were not what they seemed. Many of them carried hidden weapons and extra armor. Some were actually military vessels disguised to look like civilian transports. Lieutenant Park So-Young said quietly, "What's the status on our hunter ships?" Du-Hyan checked his screens carefully before answering. Admiral Kim reports all stealth vessels are in position and ready. The Viridians are completely surrounded, but they have no idea we're here. So-Young allowed herself a small smile. The Hunter-class ships were Earth's newest and most secret weapons. They were small, fast, and almost invisible to enemy sensors. For months, these ships had been hiding throughout the solar system, waiting. For this exact moment, the main Viridian fleet was now entering the system behind their scouts. Saw Young watched as hundreds of massive biomechanical ships appeared on her displays. Each vessel was enormous, covered in both metal armor and what looked like living tissue. They pulsed with their own internal light, like giant space creatures that had learned to use technology. The sight should have been terrifying. The Viridian fleet was easily 10 times larger than anything humans had ever built. Their weapons could destroy planets, and their shields could stop almost any attack. By all logic, Earth should have been preparing to surrender, but So Young was not afraid. She had studied these aliens for months, learning their tactics and their weaknesses. The Viridians were powerful, but they had grown lazy from too many easy victories. They expected their enemies to be afraid, to run away or beg for mercy. They did not expect their enemies to be patient. Commander Duhayan said, his voice tense with excitement. The main fleet is moving past the outer defense line. They're not even running full sensor sweeps. Soyoung watched the tactical display as the alien ships moved deeper into the solar system. The Viridians were flying in tight formations, their vessels close together to show their strength and confidence. They wanted any humans watching to see how hopeless resistance would be. What they did not know was that their tight formations made them perfect targets. All stations maintain positions. Soyoung ordered, do not power up weapon systems. Do not activate targeting computers. We wait until they commit fully. This was the hardest part, watching the enemy get closer while doing nothing. Every instinct told her to attack now, while the Viridians were still spread out. But Soyoung had learned from studying Earth's greatest military leaders throughout history. The best time to strike was not when you first saw the enemy, but when the enemy had moved so far forward that they could not easily retreat. Patience, she whispered to herself, repeating the word that had guided human warriors for thousands of years. Let them come closer. The Viridian fleet continued its advance, moving deeper into what they thought was defenseless human space. They had no idea they were swimming into the most carefully planned trap in military history. The massive Viridian flagship hung in space above Earth like a metal mountain. The ship was so huge that it blocked out stars, casting a shadow across entire continents below. Its biomechanical hull pulsed with alien life, metal plates shifting and breathing like the skin of some impossible creature. This was the pride of the Viridian Empire, a ship that had destroyed countless worlds. The Viridian commander stood on his bridge, looking down at the small blue planet through the ship's main viewing screen. His metal implants glowed with satisfaction. As he prepared to broadcast his final message to the humans below, pathetic creatures of Earth, his voice boomed across all radio frequencies. Your time has come. Surrender now, and we will kill you quickly. Resist, and we will make your deaths last for days. You have 10 minutes to decide. The alien commander laughed, a harsh metallic sound. He expected the humans to beg for mercy, just like all the other species he had conquered. Some would cry, some would try to bargain, but in the end, they all died the same way. Deep beneath the moon's surface, Admiral Hyansu Kim listened to the Viridian message with cold eyes. Around him, his command staff waited tensely for orders. Every human military unit in the solar system was ready. Hidden and waiting for this moment, Kim looked at the tactical display, showing hundreds of Viridian ships spread throughout human space. The aliens had positioned themselves exactly where he had hoped they would. They were arrogant, confident, and completely exposed. The Admiral picked up his communication device and spoke one word: execute. The Sol system exploded into violence. What? The Viridians had thought were simple mining operations in the asteroid belt suddenly revealed their true nature. Massive chunks of rock split open like flowers blooming, showing the deadly railgun platforms hidden inside. These weapons had been built in secret over many months. Disguised as innocent mining equipment, the railguns fired almost instantly. Tungsten rods, each one as long as a telephone pole and moving at incredible speed, shot across space toward the Viridian ships. The aliens had milliseconds to react before the metal projectiles slammed into their hulls. At the same time, What had looked like empty space around the Viridian fleet suddenly filled with human ships. The Hunter-class stealth vessels dropped. Their invisibility and open fire from point-blank range, they had been hiding among the alien formation for hours. Waiting for this exact moment, the communication satellites orbiting Earth and Mars opened like deadly flowers, revealing missile pods that had been concealed within their innocent-looking shells. Hundreds of rockets streaked toward Viridian ships, their warheads designed to exploit the specific weaknesses human intelligence had discovered. Even the cargo ships revealed their true nature. What had seemed like harmless transport vessels suddenly bristled with weapons and began coordinated attacks on enemy targets. The Viridian commander stared in shock as his fleet began dying around him. His ship's energy shields, which had protected him from the exotic weapons of other alien races, proved completely useless against simple kinetic force. The tungsten rods punched through his defenses like bullets through paper. "How is this possible?" he screamed, as explosions lit up space around his flagship. "They're primitives. They use chemical rockets." But Captain Minho Lee, watching from the bridge of the Earth's battleship Seoul, understood exactly what was happening. "Their shields are designed to stop energy weapons," he reported to his crew with grim satisfaction. "They built their defenses to fight other council races who use lasers and plasma cannons. But we use mass, simple, brutal, kinetic force." The Viridians had made a fatal mistake. They had prepared to fight enemies who used the same advanced technology they did. They had never considered that someone might defeat them with older, simpler weapons used in newer, smarter ways. Human military doctrine had been developed through centuries of fighting other humans. Earth's generals had studied every war, every battle, every victory and defeat in human history. They understood that the most advanced weapon was useless if it was used stupidly. While simple weapons could be devastating if used cleverly, the battle was not really a battle at all. It was systematic destruction. The Viridians found themselves caught in a perfectly coordinated trap with no way to escape. Every time they tried to regroup, human ships appeared from new directions. Every time they tried to retreat, they found their escape routes blocked. Viridian ships exploded in brilliant flashes of light throughout the solar system. Their biomechanical hulls, which had seemed so terrifying, proved fragile when hit by weapons moving at tremendous speed. Metal tore like paper and the living. Parts of their ships died in the vacuum of space. The flagship tried to fight back, its massive weapons firing desperately at human targets. But the Earth ships were too fast, too small, and too well coordinated. They struck like wolves hunting an elephant, attacking from all sides before disappearing back into the darkness. Within 4 hours, it was over. The mighty Viridian fleet that had destroyed 12 worlds was reduced to floating debris and a few damaged ships trying desperately to escape. Those few survivors broadcast panicked messages to the rest of the galaxy, warning everyone about humanity's true military power. The galaxy listened in stunned silence, as the species they had mocked as primitive announced their victory over the most feared military force in known space. Ambassador Jiwoo Park walked down the same crystal hallway she had walked 6 months ago, but everything felt different now. Last time she had been here, alien voices had filled the air with cruel laughter and mocking sounds. Now the corridors were silent except for the soft echo of her footsteps on the smooth floor as she passed groups of alien delegates. They stopped their conversations and watched her carefully. Some stepped aside to let her pass. Others bowed their heads respectfully. A few of the younger aliens stared at her with what looked like fear in their strange eyes. The massive council chamber looked exactly the same as before, the same crystal walls, the same floating seats arranged in circles, the same golden tree serving as speaker, but the feeling in the room was completely different. Where once there had been noise and chaos, now there was tense quiet. Where once the aliens had looked at humans with contempt, now they watched Jiwoo like she was a dangerous animal that might attack at any moment. Jiwoo took her place at the small podium in the center of the chamber. The same podium where she had stood months ago while hundreds of aliens laughed at her request for Earth to join their council. Now those same beings sat in perfect silence. waiting to hear what she would say. She looked around the room slowly, making eye contact with as many delegates as possible. The Viridian seats were empty now. Those who had survived the battle at Earth were too busy fleeing to attend council meetings. The other aliens shifted nervously in their chairs when her gaze passed over them. "Honored delegates," Jiwoo began, using the same quiet, polite voice she had used before. "Earth appreciates the Council's renewed interest in our membership application." The Zephyrian delegate, the tall crystal being who had mocked humans so loudly before, flickered with nervous energy. His voice was much softer now, almost apologetic. "Ambassador Park, we must admit that we had not fully understood your species' true capabilities." Ku nodded calmly, as if the alien had simply commented on the weather. "Our silence was not weakness, but wisdom," she replied. "We chose to observe and learn rather than boast and make threats. We prepared for what might come rather than wasting time with empty words." She paused, letting her words sink in. Chamber remained completely quiet. Even the usual background sounds of alien breathing and movement had stopped. "The Viridian Empire believed, as many of you did, that the loudest voice belonged to the strongest warrior," Jiwoo continued. "They thought our calm behavior meant we were cowards. They mistook our patience for fear." A jellyfish-like alien near the back of the chamber made a small sound of distress. It was the same being who had joked about humans throwing rocks during the first meeting. Now, it seemed to shrink into its seat, hoping not to be noticed. "The truth is simple," Jiwoo said, her voice still gentle but carrying clearly to every corner of the chamber. "Earth values actions over words. We believe in results, not empty speeches. We proved our worth not by making threats or showing off our weapons, but by defending ourselves when our survival was at stake." The council speaker, the golden tree being who had dismissed humanity's first application, rustled its branch-like arms nervously. When it spoke, its voice carried a tone of careful respect that had never been there before. "Ambassador Park," the speaker said formally, after careful consideration and review of recent events. "Earth's application for full membership in the Galactic Council is hereby approved by unanimous consent. We would be honored by your species' participation in our organization." Many of the alien delegates nodded their agreement, though some looked like they were forcing themselves to do. The slug-like creature who had suggested humans could clean alien ships was staring at the floor. Clearly ashamed of its earlier comments, Jiwoo listened to the offer with the same calm expression she had worn throughout both meetings. When the speaker finished, she was quiet for a long moment, just as she had been months ago. But this time, the aliens waited patiently for her response instead of laughing at her silence. "We are grateful for this offer," she finally said. "Earth will consider your invitation carefully and respond in due time." The aliens exchanged glances. They had expected immediate acceptance, eager gratitude for being allowed to join their exclusive group. Instead, the human was treating their offer like any other business proposal that needed proper consideration. Jiwoo gathered her simple paper documents and began walking toward the exit. As she moved through the chamber, every alien delegate watched her pass. Some looked curious, others fearful, and a few seemed almost admiring. None of them laughed. The shadow creature who had mocked human fuel usage whispered to its neighbor, "She walks like she owns the galaxy now." "Maybe she does," came the worried reply, as Jiwoo reached the chamber doors. She turned back to address the assembled delegates one final time. "The galaxy is large enough for all of us to coexist peacefully," she said. "Earth looks forward to building productive relationships with all species who share this goal." The doors closed behind her with a soft sound, leaving the most powerful beings in the galaxy sitting in thoughtful silence. They had finally learned an important lesson, that true strength does not need to shout to be heard. And the quietest voice in the room might belong to the most dangerous person present. The age of underestimating humanity was over.